Hey folks, Chris Vandeviver here from WhyLogicProRules.com, the website that helps you get the most you can out of Apple's Logic Pro 10. Today, let's talk about what the heck is dual mono. I think we're all pretty familiar with the difference between mono and stereo, right? If you're not, let's just brief overview. A mono track is noted by clicking on this circle right here in the input section. You see a single circle, and that implies mono, which is one signal. And it's also implied by this meter here that is a single meter as opposed to the stereo meters here. Quickly, let's just play this drum track in mono. As you can see, there's a single meter, just the one circle. Now let's set this to stereo mode. As you can see by the Venn diagram, or two circles that are interlocked, the meter is changed and now it's a stereo meter. Let's play back now in stereo. As you can hear, this track's a little lopsided. We'll get into that. But the difference between mono and stereo is mono is one signal that is summed down the center, though you can pan it either hard left or hard right. And then stereo is two signals, typically the left and right channels. Easy. Okay, so what is dual mono? Dual mono implies two mono signals, right? And that's exactly what it is. Typically, we have the option to process either the left signal separate from the right signal, or the right signal separate from the left, and there's even more options from there, which we'll get to. So why would we use dual mono? What is the purpose of it? Where does it apply in our workflow in Logic? Well, this is kind of revolutionary for us Logic users, having the opportunity to impact one signal or the other separate from each other. Let's just take a look at this overhead track that I have here. If we zoom in, we can see that something ain't quite right here. There's clearly a lot of volume on the left side of this signal, but not a lot going on the right side. It's pretty lopsided. And when we played it back, you could see on the meter here. I can only speculate what happened here. Perhaps the interface that was used, one of the channels wasn't working right. And so even though they had the gain all the way up, it wasn't driving the gain up, or perhaps they just didn't set the gain to the same volume as the left side. Whatever the case may be, we need to adjust the right side volume so it matches the left. This is a perfect opportunity to dig into dual mono. So in this particular case, I'm going to go ahead and open the gain plugin. But I want this as dual mono as opposed to a stereo plugin. So if we dig back in, we have the option of dual mono. So you can see there's a little bit of a difference with dual mono. We have an extended header here for our plugin window, and we have the option of either affecting the left signal or the right signal separate from each other. And then there's this button called couple. If I click on it, that means that any parameter that I affect within this plugin, if I drive the gain down, you can see it's been affected exactly the same on the right side. So this is the opportunity if you want to impact two knobs at the same time on both sides of the signal, you just use the couple button. So let's set that back to 0. Okay, again, in this particular instance, the right side of this drum overhead is not at the same level as the left. We need it to be the same level. So the way to do this is to set this to the right side and start driving the gain up. And we can watch the meter and see what happens. This is important because these are drum overheads. We need them to be holistic. We need them to be of comparable volume. Let's try it. Okay, that feels pretty good. You can see on the meters that they're equal. We're in pretty good shape. You can take it one step further and then bounce in place if you'd like. So you can just have the gain plugin printed onto the track and you're good to go. In this case, I'm just going to leave it. Okay, what are some other instances where we would need to impact this track or any other track, either left or right side only? Well, maybe you have some cymbal activity on a drum overhead that's just pretty erratic, that's pretty high and sizzly, and we need to reduce that. And maybe it's just on one side of the signal. Let's bring it down here and just see if there's something like that going on. That's pretty awesome. I don't hear too much that needs to be reduced, but let's just say that the crash on the right side needs to be bumped up a little. We need it to be a little more bright, have it stand out a little more. Well, the Logic EQ does offer us the option of processing either the whole stereo track, just the left, just the right, mid, and side. But perhaps we have an EQ that we want to use that doesn't allow us that opportunity. For example, the side Q from Soundtoys, it doesn't offer us an option to decode this based on what part of the signal. So once again, we can set this to dual mono, and now I can impact the left or the right. Let's just, again, do the right, and I'm going to do a little lift on that cymbal, hopefully. And maybe I want to reduce it on the left side for, let's just say I want to, just for the sake of argument. And then we can turn this off. Really handy. Another opportunity when it comes to dual mono mixing is we can also compress one signal over the other. If the left side or the right side is a little erratic, for example, if you have a choir or an orchestra where maybe like the left side of the stereo spectrum is a little louder than the right side, well, we can do some dynamic compression with just the left or the right. So once again, set this to dual mono. Let's go find a section here. So the hats are kind of hanging a little to the left, so let's just pick that. Set a ratio, pretty gentle. You get the picture. One other instance of why dual mono can be really beneficial. I want to show you something aside from just the left or right channel. I have this piano track here, and there's some activity that's not kosher on this track. Let's take a look at the correlation meter and just see what's going on. Clearly, there's some phase issues going on because it's hanging out mostly in the negative region of this meter every time the piano strikes. So I'm going to speculate that there's some stereo width issues going on here. How do we dissect this? Well, another option with dual mono, make sure it's in dual mono. Open the gain plugin once again. If we click on this gear within the window, we have a couple options. I'm going to focus on this drop down here from stereo to mid side. Now, mid side can feel very intimidating for a lot of users, but it basically means mid means the center activity and the side means the far side activity. So it decodes a stereo track in a different manner. Instead of left or right, we have down the center or the far sides. What I'm going to do is I'm going to reduce the gain on the sides all the way. And then we'll listen to this piano and take a look at the meter here. We can see here that essentially the piano's in mono. Now we've removed some content. It's not just like we set it as a mono track and now it's just all firing down the center. We've removed some of the content on the sides, but this is really helpful because now we can start to reintroduce the side content, reintroduce that stereo width, but adjust it in a manner that we're staying on the positive side of the correlation meter. So when this track is played on a mono playback system, such as a cell phone, it's not going to disappear or be greatly diminished because it's collapsing into mono. So real quick, let's just adjust the stereo width. as you can see, now that I boosted the side content, I have it high enough that there's still stereo width. It still has some presence in the left and right signals, but it's not so high that this track is going to collapse when it's played on a mono playback system, such as a cell phone. So in a nutshell, dual mono just means that you're allowed to impact one of two different signals, and those can be broken down either into left or right with a stereo track, or mid or side content. And mid is just everything down the center, side is everything on the far sides. I hope that was helpful to you. If it was, I highly suggest subscribing to the YouTube channel, WhyLogic Pro Rules, or subscribing on the website itself, whylogicprorules.com. Every week, I'm posting new videos, new emails, new content to help you get the most you can out of Apple's Logic Pro 10. Thanks so much.